Good morning. Welcome to Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us virtually on YouTube, Zoom, and Facebook. And I welcome all these smiling faces in the room. So we're going to get started right off the bat, delighting in the offerings of love eternal.
Good morning, good morning.
All right, then. Thanks for having us home again. So nice.
So this song is called More Than This, and it has a chorus that we would love for you to sing along with us, and it's very simple. You about ready to go?
You can do it.
We are more than this, we are more than this. That's it. We are more than this, we are more than this. One more time. We are more than this, we are more than this. We are more than this, we are more than this. There you go, you sound beautiful. We must do more than just survive. We're here to thrive, eyes. Earth was made for you and I, children of the moon's side. We are more than this, we are more than this, we are more than this. I'm more than this, we are more than this, we are more than this. Every blade of grass has an angel that beckons it to grow. And I know I see you, my Father, always calling me higher. So I allow it to be. Sweet compassion, a passion to see the equality, not pity, but hope the end. I am divinity. Oh, I bring the edge, manifesting. Greater work shall manifest in thee. If you believe, we are more than this. We are more than this. We are more than this. So much more than this. We are more than this. We are more than this.
Here we are. So much more. More than our body, more than our skin, more than our country, more than our kin. Here we are. So much more. More than our joy, more than our pain, more than our gossip, more than our gain. We are so much more.
We are more than this. We are more than this. We are more than this. So much more than this. We are more than this. We are more than this. So much more than this. We are more than this. We are more than this. So much more than this. Thank you. We're going to do a song called Celebrate Your Life, which also has some great sing-along parts for us. Celebrate your life.
I will celebrate mine today.
It's so good to celebrate this life with you.
Celebrate
Celebrate your life. Thank you so much.
This really is the best moment ever because it's the only moment. It must be. So welcome again. I want to welcome everybody who's joined us while we were singing, either on YouTube, Facebook, Zoom, or here in the room. My name is Reverend Rafe Ellis, and I am honored and privileged to be the senior minister right here at Sierra Center for Spiritual Living. And one of the things that I get to do every Sunday morning is remind us of who we are and what we're about and share that with guests. We are a radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, supportive community that celebrates the diversity of creation. We strive to live authentic spiritual lives through a practical application of the teachings of Science of Mind. We engage in spiritual practices, sacred practices that uplift our spirit, deepen our awareness, and ignite our soul's self-expression. We demonstrate active compassion to ourselves, to one another, and the world. We experience meaningful contribution through giving generously of our time, talents, and treasures, and we intentionally promote our community and our teachings. And one of the things that we do every Sunday morning, I'm going to ask one of our board members, Valerie, to join me. One of the things that we do every Sunday morning is our candle lighting ritual, our inclusion candle lighting ritual. And we light these candles to celebrate the unity of all people, all faiths, all beings, all life. We light the first candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs of and practices of all indigenous peoples. Slow down. We light the second candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the third candle for Taoism, honoring the path of ultimate reality, the natural way. We light the fourth candle, for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the middle way and path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the teachings of Jesus as the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We light the ninth candle for all forms of New Thought teachings, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles of love and law. And we light the 10th candle for absolute inclusivity, affirming that all are welcome and celebrated here. And we light this final candle, honoring the infinity of oneness as all creation, seen and unseen. Thank you, Valerie. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Love Eternal for another song.
All right, you guys awake yet? You sure?
I think so.
Thanks.
He's just stuck here with me.
We had to drive up from Sacramento this morning, and yeah, I was like half asleep the whole way, but I feel awake now. Had some green tea in the back there, and all right, let's do "Love Is Our Destiny." I and you and me, one big happy family, swimming through this divinity. When will your people see? When will your people see? When will we see? Love is our destiny. I know that love is our destiny. I know that
is our time of announcements, and we got a couple. God's calling. Maybe there's an additional announcement I don't know about. So for those that are here in the room, you obviously know that we are open. For those of you who are joining us virtually, we are indeed open, and we have this fun, unique, streamlined communication system in place. It is our bead system. And so if you want folks to still stay 6 feet away from you and not physically touch you, you can wear a red strand of beads, and it communicates that. If you're not sure and you want people to check in because you're dealing with it one person at a time, you can wear a yellow strand of beads. And if you're all good with proximity, handshakes, hugs, you can wear a yellow strand of beads, and that communicates that. If you want to create a little buffer zone around you where you're sitting, you can grab a couple of these "Please do not sit on this seat" signs coming through the door, put one on either side of you, and that will establish that space for you. We do ask that if you are experiencing anything in the physical realm that might possibly, in any galaxy in the universe, potentially be infectious to someone else, that you stay home, that you care for yourself beyond any particular version, because there are some things we just don't need to share with one another. If, after having been here on a Sunday morning, you become aware that you were exposed to something within a week prior to actually being here, and then you find out after the fact, please give me a call so that we can be aware of that and be in integrity with any contact tracing that we need to do. You are and will be held anonymous per the laws of HIPAA. And in my previous profession, one of my jobs was to educate people about HIPAA and make sure they followed it. So I'm a compliance guy. So I promise you, your confidentiality will be maintained, because that is what is legally appropriate. Walking with the Rev. This is turning into a really delightful time where Monday through Thursday, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we meet at the parking lot of the North Star Museum at the intersection of Freeman and Allison Ranch Road. And we just walk the trail for 30 minutes, and then when my pocket goes off, which is my alarm, we turn around and walk back. We go as fast as the slowest person in the group, which sometimes is me. And it's just a time to connect and have conversation. And I will tell you, I have had some of the most lovely conversations and gotten to know some of you at such a different level, just taking a walk together. And so I invite you to join me there, if you choose. Crossword puzzles, a fun way to learn science of mind without taking a structured class. These were developed using the glossary of A Science of Mind, A Philosophy of Faith, A Way of Life, which really functions as Cliff Notes. You can purchase these through our website. You can buy just one letter of the alphabet at 10 cents a word for however many words are used in that particular letter. You can buy the whole alphabet set for $35, or you can buy a set of 23 randomized puzzles when you're ready to really challenge yourself for $35, or you can buy the whole thing for $50. If you are listening from another community, if you purchase any of those, please tell us in the notes what community you're associated with, you're affiliated with, and at the end of the year, we will tithe 10% of your purchase back to your center. So we're also participating in the law of circulation. Conscious Conversation Series. We have this coming Wednesday night is the last session of that, and it is a panel discussion. And we met earlier this week with all of the panelists, And it's going to be a great conversation to really explore what can inclusivity actually look like beyond what you might be hearing in the news, beyond what you might experience in a diversity, inclusion, and equity class. We're really talking from our own experience and our own growth and imagining what true inclusivity in any community can look like. So you're invited to join us there. It is online only. The information will be in the newsletter, and the times in our time zone are 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. What else do I have? Yes. Okay, August 7th, we are doing a special celebration of life service. Our normal Sunday service will be augmented in a little bit of a different format, because one of the things that we've become aware of is that our entire world is living in a state of delayed, protracted grief. People have experienced lots of different losses, and especially early on in COVID, simply did not have the opportunity to have celebrations of life, to come together in community, to process our grief. And it's not just about people that we've lost. People have lost pets. People have lost jobs. People have lost homes. We collectively, and I'm not sure it's a bad thing, but it's a loss, so it involves grief. We've lost our sense and idea of normal, right? So there's a lot of different things operating, and we are going to do our best to wrap them all in love and really normalize and stimulate the grief process, because for a lot of folks it's coming out sideways as domestic violence, as road rage, as all kinds of ugliness that's kind of unnecessary if we understand what's really happening and make space for it. And so that's what we are going to do. We're going to have a lot of special music. We're going to have a lot of special readings. All of the ministers and Deborah as the practitioner are going to be involved in the service. So I really invite you to come, and I want to invite you to bring something. We're going to have a community altar, and I invite you to bring something that represents whatever you might be grieving, even if it's a picture of the word normal, right? Because who knows? It's all individualized. So August 7th, 10 a.m., there is a potluck afterwards, so please plan to bring something to share. Manifestation Mondays Mastery Group. We are exploring how to actually use these teachings to manifest the desires of your heart. Because it's not just as simple as saying, I want a new house. If it were that simple, I wouldn't have a profession. Right? It's not that simple. And part of that is really surfacing what belief is actually operating that's getting in the way. And we got tools that can help you flip those just like that. And it's a practice, and we learn from each other, so you're invited to come. That is specifically focused on manifestation. It's every Monday from 5:30 to 6:30. We do ask you to consider a $10 donation for that service. On Thursdays, Practical Application Group. This is where you bring whatever is going on in your life, those things that come up where you're like, how do I apply spiritual principle to this? And we will learn from each other how to do that, what spiritual principle might help us walk through that. And that is on Thursdays from 5:30 to 6:30. Again, we're asking people to invest $10 for each session that they attend. First Friday Fun, August 5th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We are going to watch an incredible movie that is evidence of the power of these teachings. The movie is called Come Sunday, It is about the awakening of Bishop Carlton Pearson. Bishop Carlton Pearson was Oral Roberts' right-hand guy. Oral Roberts actually referred to Bishop Carlton as his black son. And he had an awakening that hell doesn't exist, that there's no need for anyone to be saved at all. And it's a pretty interesting film, and it's a demonstration of the commitment to, when you have an awakening, to not be moved from what it is, because he was not treated kindly by his denomination. And you'll see all that in the movie. And in the end, it's just beautiful, and he continues to minister to this day as a unity minister. So, yeah, shift does happen if we will commit to it and allow it. That is a $10 to $20 investment, and no one is turned away to anything. We ask you to contribute so we can keep the doors open, but no one is turned away. What is that behind me? Okay, thank you. I was seeing writing and I'm like, what did I miss? Because sometimes I do. So this is our time of inward shift. And this morning, our community value is perhaps one of my favorite of all values available, is inclusion. And I simply want to invite you, as we go into meditation, to imagine how you might go about including some of the faces of God that you would prefer in the human realm to exclude. And to, in the meditation, see if you can get to finding God in them. For our meditation, I'm going to ring the bowl 3 times. We're going to do 3 collective ohms, and then into our meditation, I will bring us out with our opening prayer and reading our affirmation. one infinite source, one infinite substance, infinite possibility, everywhere present. It is that substance out of which all life is made, infusing its creation with itself, surrounding its creation with itself, giving freely of itself to itself, expanding its experience of itself in, through, and as its creation, never withholding any particle of itself. And being created out of it, by it, to be it, I know that I am it in form, that I am an expanded experience of the divine. And what is true of me is true of all life. Each individualized expression of this infinite oneness, purposeful, intentional, a smile in the heart of the infinite itself, to know itself as each individualized expression of creation. And so I know that this is a time of God experiencing God, of the divine experiencing the divine, of love experiencing love, whatever name we call it. It is all that is here. It is here as this building, as the chairs, as the floor, as the air we breathe, as each one of us, as the technology that we use. So grateful. So grateful for every heart and every hand that has ever engaged in the creation, in the sustenance of this center, of this teaching, knowing that all thought is eternal. It is still here operating now. Grateful, grateful, grateful to stand on the shoulders of giants that have come before. Grateful to experience the wisdom and to be a part of it. Grateful to know that every moment is a precious moment, that every now is the only moment there is, containing all of what we call the past. That is the inclusion of spirit, all included, contained within the one. And so I celebrate. And as I celebrate, I feel a natural release. Nothing to do other than to let go and let God be God. Let love be love. To lean into, with total abandonment, the operation of law, knowing the flawlessness of it all. And so I invite you to join me as we release into this experience, as we say together, and so it is. It's always fun to pray unscripted and hear what God has to say through you. It's quite amazing. So I'm going to read our affirmation through one time. I invite you to just take it in, and then we will read it together. Where I am, God is. Where I go, God is. Let's say that together. Where I am, God is. Where I go, God is. And so it is. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Love Eternal for our pre-talk song.
there's some dear friends of ours that still live up in Nevada City who started a nonprofit many years ago called Common Vision. Has anyone heard of Common Vision? Rafe's nodding his head. So they went up and down the coast of California and even into Oregon with huge buses that run on recycled vegetable oil, and they would bring fruit trees and go to schools, and especially inner city schools, and do planting ceremonies with the kids. And they planted hundreds of orchards at this point, all up and down the coast. And it just inspired me every year, seeing them, all their volunteers together, getting up at 4 in the morning to make it to these schools to just do some of the most positive things I could think you could do. Plant fruit trees with kids, right? In food deserts. So this song is one we wrote for them called Common Vision. But she's centuries old, and the stories have been told, and the prophecies they unfold. But this earth is our home, so we try our best, we try our best. I want my grandchildren's grandchildren to sit under the majesty of the beautiful redwood tree by the bountiful sea.
There we go. Last time I did that, I set the projector on tilt. Good morning. Let's take a breath together. So this morning's talk is We Are Stardust. And for years, we said we were, but we didn't have science to back it up. And now we do. Isn't that interesting? not going to go into the whole scientific spectrography and all that because it hurts our brains to think too deeply in the intellect. But check this out. For decades, science popularized humans are made of stardust, and now a new survey of 150,000 stars shows just how true that old cliche is. Humans and their galaxy have about 97% of the same atoms and the same elements of life appear to be prevalent toward the galaxy's center. 97%. The difference is in amount, right? We're way more oxygen than the stars. We're about 65% oxygen. Stars are about 1% oxygen. But we still contain the same stuff, right? I don't know about you, but I find that fascinating. And more specifically, in our own star galaxy, right? Because that's what they were testing, is what's in the Milky Way galaxy. So we may eventually find out that we're connected to all galaxies, which I suspect is the case, right? Because scientifically, one of the things that has always fascinated me is science can agree that the physical realm started with the Big Bang. What did the Big Bang come out of? Because for things to go bang, there had to be something. And we cannot yet explain scientifically, definitively, what that something is, or where it came from. And I love science, and I laugh at science sometimes because there's this whole element called promissorial science. And promissorial science simply is the science that asks us to, well, just believe me now and someday I'll prove it. Not so much. Not so much. Because when I look logically at the unfolding of life, there's something that happens beyond science. There's a resonance that happens within my being that I don't need science to explain. It's never going to be able to explain it anyway. It's that presence. It's that thing that I feel, that I sense, that connection with all life. If you've never had a palpable moment of oneness, I invite you to meditate more, to change how you move in the world, to open to such an experience. Mine came in ministerial school, quite unexpectedly. Was actually in a class on consciousness and studying that there has to be some element of consciousness in everything if all life is created out of consciousness. And I was in the throes of writing my final paper for this class. And after about 36 hours at the computer, I had to take a break. And I walked out of my house, and I walked to the end of my driveway, and I just happened to look down the street that I lived on. And there was this amazing sunset happening. And in a split second, there was something inside of me that recognized I am that sunset. That the self, the divine self, was looking at itself in a diversified form. And it moved me in a place that I still cannot explain. And the interesting part, much like we learn from the Buddha, the minute I became aware, consciously, humanly aware of what was happening, it was over. Because then my brain kicked in and tried to explain it and limit it. So that's what happens with awakening. That's why we keep practicing, because the minute our brain gets involved, now we're into a whole different realm. Don't make it a bad thing, just makes it a thing. Okay? Neil deGrasse Tyson. Anybody not familiar with Neil deGrasse Tyson? He's the physicist that took away Pluto as a planet. He says this, two things. We are part of this universe. We are in this universe. But perhaps the most important, perhaps more important than both of these facts, is that the universe is in us. Okay? He takes away the separation. Another one of his quotes, we are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe anatomically. It's amazing. Now, fun facts. I had fun playing with this. Humans, right? You are 99.9% genetically identical to the person you're sitting next to the person sitting behind you, to the person sitting in front of you, to the person that has different political views as you. 99.9% the same. Perhaps we really are connected. Perhaps. Now, it's easy to wrap our head around, okay, I'm genetically connected to humans. All right. 96% to chimpanzees. Right? We don't have a whole lot of problem with that. But did you know that genetically you're 90% the same as an obsidian domesticated cat? Because you are. 85% of your DNA is similar and identical to mice. 50% of the non-coded DNA we share with mice. 80% we share with domesticated cattle. 60% we share with chickens. And my favorite, we share 60% of the DNA with the banana. See, it's not just animals, right? We are connected to everything. So what gets in our way? Socialization. Everything we've learned from the neck up gets in our way, right? Because we're taught generationally that we are separate, right? Bible verses, people know Bible verses that have never been through the doors of a church. This whole idea that humans are positioned in dominion over the earth. Straight out of the Bible, most people know that, even ones that have never been in the doors of a church. This place of human supremacy, if you will. Well, who made it that way? Pretty sure we did. And I wonder sometimes, does the tiger think about its position of supremacy when it's chasing one of us? I don't know, but I'm curious. When I order my dog to do something and he turns around and looks at me like, whatever, silly human, does he have a perception that he is superior to me? I don't know. And there's no way to know. And so I think the bigger invitation is, instead of looking for how we're different, to begin to acknowledge and search out all the ways that we're the same. Now, Many of you know I have years in 12-step recovery. And probably the first 5 years, I spent separating myself from everybody else in the room. I would listen to people's shares and, well, I'm not that. Well, I'm not that. And it was suggested to me that maybe I stop looking at people and just look at shoes during the meeting. And I'm just like, excuse me? Yeah, just look at shoes. And notice, pay attention. Are you noticing how everybody has different shoes? Or are you noticing that everybody has feet? See? We are at choice. We can find the differences or we can find the commonality. And so what if we entered every interaction from a perspective, from a commitment of finding where we're similar? Where we're similar. Even if we have to start with the exterior. Right? Even if we start with, I have a head, they have a head. Okay. They have a mouth, I have a mouth. I'm using mine silently, they're using theirs verbally. Because many of us, right, one of my favorite exercises is to ask an audience, how many people talk to themselves? And invariably, someone will not raise their hand, and yet inside their head, did they not just say, I don't talk to myself? Right? We all do it. We all compare because we're taught to. Doesn't make it a negative. Sometimes comparison matters. If I'm buying produce, I'm going to compare so that I get what I've been taught is the best produce. I'm not, if I ignore it, I'm going to get home with rotten fruit, and then I'm going to be on some level of domestic trouble. See, the guys know what I'm talking about. What if we noticed how we're similar? What if we committed to just see the presence of God, the presence of Spirit, to stop getting attached to one another's conditioning, to one another's socialization, to one another's thoughts, and dare to be curious. Why do you think that? Say more, share deeper, to invite those challenging conversations, mostly that challenge our own thinking. See, the conversation itself is not hard. What's hard is navigating all of the stuff that comes up inside of our own head that wants to argue with someone else's experience, that wants to argue with someone else's perspective, that wants to separate ourselves. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say none of you stand on your front porch at night, look up at the stars, which you're deeply connected to, and argue with them about why they look the way they do and why you look the way you do. Not going to happen, right? We don't stand out in nature and watch a rabbit take off running when it's approached by something and vilify the rabbit. None of us stand in that field, hey, rabbit, you got a fear issue. You need to let go of that fear thinking. None of us do that. In fact, most of us recognize and celebrate what a brilliant instinct that the rabbit has enough sense to take off. And yet, we don't do that with ourselves. We vilify our normal human responses. Now, there is such a thing as thought fear, but it is not connected to your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system, the fight or flight, actually operates 100% independent of thought. It fires off, and then you become aware of it, and then your thinking begins. And so perhaps we have that same brilliant system that the rabbit has. but we teach each other to ignore it, to vilify it. And if we can normalize that, then we can take responsibility for what we scare ourselves with that has nothing to do with our fear response. Nothing. That's all mental mumbo jumbo where we're writing a narrative, right? And most of it comes in the what if. Anybody else play what if? Right? What if, and then we run all the scenarios. And it's the rare person that runs the scenario, what if magnificence happens? Because that's an option. But nobody tells us it's an option. Nobody tells us it's an option to what if ourselves right smack dab into the middle of magnificence. It's your choice. And nobody on this planet can choose for you. They can't make you choose anything. They can limit your options. True story. There are consequences for every choice. Some of them amazing, some of them unwanted, most of them unexpected. But it's still your choice. And so the more consciously, the more intentionally we choose, the more results we get that we want. And so I invite you, start finding where you connect. Start being intentionally aware that every time you take a breath, you're breathing the same air as everything in the universe. Everything. That you are surrounded by it, infused with it, that you are. And I'll keep saying this until everybody comes to me one at a time and says, I got it. You don't need to say it anymore. You are an on purpose, intentional, divine idea. You are a smile in the heart of creation itself to know itself as you. It infused you with 100% of its power to create. And it just gives you free will to create whatever your heart desires, because your heart is its heart. That's how it expands itself, is as its creation. Own it. Love it. Choose to be daring. Choose to be bold. Choose to consciously choose, knowing, and here's the catch, that everything you choose for you, you choose for all of humanity, because there's only one thing happening. It's only one. That's the important part of the connection, that everything I choose impacts the whole. I'll wrap up with this. If you don't believe that's true, next time you stump your toe, call me. I don't care what time of night it is. Call me and tell me what part of your body did not know that happened. Right? Our body is a microcosm of the macro. Everything we experience, the whole experiences. So let yourself begin to be aware of what you're adding and what you're experiencing. If it isn't what you want, you have the power to shift the experience. Quit focusing on shifting other people. When you change something anywhere, you change it everywhere. I'm going to say that one more time. When you change something anywhere, by the truth of oneness, you change it everywhere. Let's take this into prayer. I celebrate the oneness of life. I celebrate the awareness of the connection of everything. I celebrate the truth that thoughts are things that the infinite, unformed substance makes itself known as form. I celebrate the power of choice. I celebrate the truth that what happens anywhere happens everywhere. And I commit myself again and again and again to choose consciously, to create consciously, intentionally, and to see God and only God in every element of life. And I invite you to join me in this celebration, in this intention, as we say together, and so it is. This is our time of intentional giving. It's our time to participate in the reciprocity of life, in the cycles. Just like evaporation brings rain, it's all a cycle. So let's say our giving affirmation together, shall we? I give this gift with love and joy from a consciousness of abundance. Divine love blesses and prospers all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
That was so great. I need to make notes of those facts, so did you know?
60% with a banana. That's the one I
Yeah, just as long as you say the good one.
I love watching science catch up with like ancient indigenous wisdom. You know, you look on Facebook and they'll say like, science has proved that if you love somebody, you feel better. You know, things like that. How do you do that? Just like the farmer plants the seed, then waits for the fruit so patiently. We are on our way, we are on our way. We are on our way, we are on our way.
And so I speak a word of blessing, a word of gratitude, a word of recognition for the infinite in the form of money that sustains Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, that we give through Sierra Center for Spiritual Living to support good work in the world. And so it is. Okay. Let's see. I create a script for myself because I could lose my place. Want to thank everybody who was a part of making this happen. Thank Jill and Carl for our beautiful orchid. My goodness, just blows my mind. Thank you, Valerie, for joining me in lighting our candles. Thank you, Diana, for running our PowerPoint. Thank you, Juanita, for being our wizard behind the curtain and getting it all set up. Thank you, Stephen, for being our greeter and our usher this morning. Thank you, Jared and Shauna, for the amazing music and just the love and kinship that we share. In case you don't know, we kind of adore you. And thank each of you, because it's way more fun with people in the room. And I never thought I'd be actually able to compare that to no people in the room, but I actually have an extended experience of that now. So trust me, it's way better with you here. So I invite you to stand and let's do our benediction together. Something wonderful is happening as me right now. It is this thing called life. It is this thing called the stars. It is this thing called the banana. I know it. I feel it. I sense it because I am it. And so it is. Sing us out.
That is such a revolutionary new message, right? I am the banana.
And we are going to be back up here in August 13th at Elixir in Nevada City. You guys know where that is. It's a great little non-alcoholic cafe venue. And it's a free show, and we will be celebrating that we have a brand new CD coming out, and it releases August 12th. And yeah.
Yeah, we love to see that.
So let's say yes to life again here. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.